It is time now for today's Talkback segment. Each day we post a question on Court TV's social media pages. We gather your comments and questions and respond on the show. Today in New York, the suspect in the Long Island serial killer case appeared in court. Afterwards, his attorney said his client is looking forward to his day in court. 59-year-old Rex Heuermann has pleaded not guilty in the killings of 3 women whose bodies were found along Gilgo Beach area of Long Island. Now, Heuermann's wife and children, they have returned home, but his wife says their family home was torn apart by law enforcement. She's devastated, as is the family, and of course she has filed for divorce from Heuermann. For today's Talkback, we asked you, what are your thoughts on the case against Rex Heuermann and today's press conference? All right, still with me, of course, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor David Bruno, criminal defense attorney, former district attorney Matthew Mangino. Gentlemen, our first comment comes from Carol. Carol says, then the family has to leave their home and come back to a house that has been destroyed inside and out. Their lives are in shambles. I can't begin to process what they are going through. And Matthew, you know, we talked a little bit about that earlier, and I did mention that I found out there's, at least in New York, there's an insurance fund where you can apply to have any damages you know, given back to you. Generally, if you're a landlord and someone was your tenant, or if you're not the person who is thought of or alleged to have committed the crime, you have a chance of getting some money. It takes a long time, but it does not deal with the emotional damage. And that's what I think this viewer is talking about. Talk to me about your thoughts on that.
Well, yes, I understand, you know, her concern, and certainly you don't want to see a situation where the house is in shambles and you have the family who has to come back into that house. But I don't know that there's really going to be a lot of sympathy for this woman because, you know, well, we know you're innocent until proven guilty. I mean, this is a terrible case. This is an alleged serial killer. I'm sure that the state of New York, local authorities will address this issue. It's not going to happen immediately. Maybe there's some means that she can stay in another place until they can get this corrected. But it is urgent that you conduct a search as thoroughly as you can so that you can build a case against someone who you've alleged has killed multiple people over an extended period of time.
Yeah, and there's no law that says they have to put stuff back. There just isn't. Our next comment comes from VW. I disagree that the family and the neighbors didn't know. They might not have known about the murders, but they knew something was wrong. And David, that's, you know, that goes to the point of, you know, maybe that may be hard to, you know, come by some sympathy for the family, because a lot of people, and we saw a little earlier, there was a young woman talking, lives in the area, says it's hard for her to believe that the family didn't know anything. I can believe it. These guys operate in the shadows. They know what they're doing. Phone records suggest the wife was out of the country when some of these things happened, and they happened in the home. But certainly something was off.
Well, great points. I mean, even the DA himself points out that the wife is out of town for each of the 3 victims here. And that's the MO of this guy, Rex. Because guess what? He's not running and telling his family that, yeah, I'm meeting prostitutes out there. It's not something that he's sharing. He's obviously hiding it from the family. I don't think they knew. I think that this is unfortunate. And I think that Rex, he's got an uphill battle given everything that we've seen in the affidavit. And also, one of the things we learned today is that there are a couple 100 hours of surveillance by law enforcement. And at the very least, we know that they have Rex going into a shop in Manhattan, purchasing minutes that he put on a burner phone that's linked to one of those email accounts that have the Google searches. So he has a big problem. We get back to the theme of these cases that we're seeing about cell phones, about cell phone data, cell towers, text messages, and all of these things that are discoverable in the phones.
Yep, we talk about the presumption of innocence. He has pled not guilty. He has said he did not do this. But as you mentioned, the evidence feels very strong.
So did Kohberger. Kohberger has said the same thing. They both have problems.
Exactly. But it has to play out in the court of law. We'll be watching. All right, thanks to Matthew Mangino, David Bruno. Thank you so much, guys. Always a real pleasure to have you on. Folks, coming up...